Good morning. I'm Mike Phillips. I'm from North Carolina, so I have this really thick northern accent. So if you have trouble understanding me, let me know and I'll slow my talk down a little bit. You know, if you talk slow, people think you think slow. It's gotten me by for 58 years. So, I'm with Alliance AutoGas. I handle their municipal and law enforcement division. But in a prior life, I'm a retired officer with 28 years experience. Started out in the police department as a patrol officer and did that for about 8 years. I moved to Iredell County, which is just north of Charlotte, where I had been working. And because of my job with Charlotte, I had met a lot of the guys that work in Iredell County. And they had just gotten a new sheriff. And I'm getting ready to go to work one morning, and there's a knock on my door. So I opened the door and didn't recognize the guy. And he said, "Mike?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "I'm Phil Redmond, the sheriff of Iredell County." You know, and I haven't been living in Iredell County but just a short period of time, and I'm wondering why the high sheriff's knocking on my door at 8 o'clock in the morning. So he says, "I'd like to sit down and talk to you for a few minutes, if you don't mind." Well, what had happened is guys that I had been working with from his department had told him about me, and he was wanting to offer me a job. And that impressed me so much because he didn't know me from Adam's house cat. He didn't know what kind of officer I was other than what his men had told him. So it really impressed me, and I thought, okay, I'm going to take that job. So I did. Ended up staying there for the next 20 years. Retired from there. Principal fella, taught me a lot. But I learned the difference between a police department and a sheriff's office in North Carolina. How many police officers do we have here today? Any deputy sheriffs? You may not know what understand what I'm getting ready to tell you, but in North Carolina, the chief law enforcement officer of a county is the sheriff. There's only 2 people in that county that can arrest the sheriff, the coroner and the clerk of court. Okay? He is elected. It is a political office. He runs for office every 4 years. Redmond ran for 5 straight terms. Most of those were unopposed. But whenever you get into that culture of a sheriff's office, it's a different animal than what you may be looking at as a police department. Things are done a little bit different. And in the back of your mind, there's always that political aspect that you have to take into account. Okay? In an agency like a sheriff's office, much like what the chief was talking about, you just can't go out and hire an officer just any time you want to. So your officers have to learn to wear different hats. They learn to accept additional responsibilities than what their job title may be. With me, I was a captain. I retired out as a captain. I was over the criminal enforcement section because in our department we hadn't handled criminal, we did civil, we did detention. So we did a broad aspect, and what I handled was the enforcement section, the patrol, the narcotics investigators, criminal investigations, those kinds of things. But I started getting additional hats I had to wear because, you know, when you progress in the department, different responsibilities come your way. About 2012, we got to the point where we were paying a little over $4 a gallon for gasoline. We had budgeted about $2 a gallon for gasoline. So what does that tell you? In 6 months, where are we going to be in our budget? We're going to be out of money. Okay, so the sheriff came to me and he said, "Mike, find us a way to save money on fuel." Okay. Because when he tells you to do something, you do it. So, okay. I had no clue what we were going to do. Where we're going to park cars, where we're going to start acting like fire departments, where we just stay in one location, and when we get a call, we go out. How are we going to do this? How are we going to cut our fuel usage to where we can still make it through with our budget? Just so happened there's a law enforcement technology magazine on my desk, and I start flipping through it. And lo and behold, I see an article where Greenville County, South Carolina, has converted 50 cars to propane, and they're saving money hand over fist. So I thought, well, okay, let's check into this. So that's what I did. I called Greenville County. Can you give me some information on this? And they did. They gave me the information. They were working with a company called Alliance AutoGas and gave me the information on how to contact them. So I did. Dick, if you could move that. So I did. And what we did at Iredell County, we converted Crown Vics. We did 50 patrol vehicles, and then they have even kept the program going. They just recently converted 13 Tahoes. The first year we saved a tremendous amount of money, and every year they have saved money on their propane conversions. Last year they saved enough where they were able to buy two additional canines for their department. Okay. What do we expect from vehicles in law enforcement? First of all, we want performance. We want convenience and simplicity of operation. We don't want to have some big owner's manual that tells us how to work the vehicle. We want economic operation, reliability. First of all, we want safety, but whenever we talk about doing a conversion on a police car, we must convince that agency that it's not going to reduce any of the things that law enforcement are expecting out of their vehicles, okay? The issues we had at Iredell County, we were facing $4 a gallon fuel costs. We needed to have a gasoline option because all of our cars didn't just stay within a 5-mile radius of our department. So we needed a gasoline option because a lot of our cars would go out of town or out of the state even. So we needed to be able to do a biofuel. We needed to be able to run on gas and propane. We needed infrastructure. We needed a place to get the alternative fuel, the AutoGas. We wanted it to be officer friendly, and we'll talk about that a little bit more down the road. We wanted reliability because remember that goes back to one of the key core elements of what an officer expects from his car, and we wanted performance also. So what we found was propane historically runs about $1 cheaper a gallon than gasoline. So if you have a gasoline price here, propane will typically run always about $1 cheaper, somewhat different. We did choose the Alliance biofuel system. That gave us the opportunity and the option to run AutoGas or to run gasoline. And that came at the ability of the officer to choose, which can be good and which can be bad, and we'll talk about that also. We needed 24-hour access to fuel. We needed an easy to use. We didn't want a lot of long training classes to make this work for us. We wanted to remain operational with low maintenance. We wanted the vehicles to be able to run continuously and no reduction in performance. Iredell County has take-home cars. They don't hot seat cars. But what we wanted was if we converted that car, we wanted that car to be able to stay running and not in the shop all the time. Okay. Steve Hightower from Kingsport, Tennessee, I'm using his numbers because I just didn't want to throw all my numbers out there. I wanted to show you that this works in different places. Steve Hightower in Kingsport, he is a true champion of alternative fuels and alternative energy. His county uses propane, AutoGas, they use CNG, they use electric. Anything that they can do to save money and using alternative fuels, they do it. But what this is going to show you is a calculation of potential savings, and it's based on purchasing 10 or converting 10 vehicles. Okay, now in Kingsport, they keep their vehicles for 100,000 miles. Okay. you're going to see a economy percentage of 15%. What that means is propane or AutoGas is a higher octane than gasoline. But because of that, it burns a lot quicker, so you're going to use more propane than you would gasoline. So it's about 15% difference, okay? Gasoline price at the time of this, which was $2.04 a gallon. The price of propane was $1.34. It's going to cost us $3,100 at that time to convert the vehicle. There's your 95 cents for your consumption. You get doing 10 vehicles. Your gas price again, your fuel economy expectation. You see gas is 9.4, propane is 8.0. That's because of the difference in the burning of it. Anticipated life cycle is equal. Fuel cost per mile for gasoline about 22 cents, AutoGas 17 cents. Total consumption was going to be on gas about $10,600, for propane about $12,000 because you're going to have to pump more propane. Lifetime fuel was $21,000 based on these figures and $16,000. The conversion cost is $3,100. Gasoline to propane savings about $4,900. Over the life gasoline to propane, life savings included conversion costs. This is after this. You get about $1,800 with the propane consumption target of 95%, at $1,739. On those 10 vehicles, your total savings is going to be about $17,000. So just to kind of recap that, average physical year 15 propane cost $1.34. With alternative fuels, you do get an IRS rebate. In 15, it was 50 cents per gallon. Your average gallon savings over gasoline, $1.74. The cost of gasoline was $2.04. Approximately in his fleet, he saved almost $50,000 that year. Okay. The chief was talking about we just can't go out and hire police officers because of funding. This is an actual way that if you do this, you can actually cut some of your costs. Okay? And again, this is Steve Hightower in Kingsport, Tennessee. How to fund a project in North Carolina. Most of your states, they have clean energy coalitions, and through those clean energy coalitions, there are grants that are available. They're usually like an 80-20 grant, which means you'll get 80% grant money, and you have to do a 20% match. Okay? What Iredell County did is we used asset forfeiture funds for our match, so we didn't have to budget anything. We also used the asset forfeiture funds to convert the Tahoes, again, using grant funding as well. Okay. You can put this in your budget, the cost of conversions. You can put it in your budget, and we know what that means. That means you're going to start a year in advance preparing for this, trying to decide on how it's going to be implemented. You can do grants. They're, like I said, the clean energy coalitions, they have grants that are, if it wasn't for the grants, a lot of agencies wouldn't be able to do this. They just can't afford it. The only problem, there's come some stipulations with the grants. You may have to be in a non-attainment area. You may have to provide a match. There's usually a minimum of the money that you can ask for, and there's usually a maximum. Alternative funding options, again, asset forfeiture funding, different ways to fund this. I know sheriff's offices in Iredell County, they operate their own commissaries, they operate their own medical, they operate their own kitchens and their own telephones, and everything generates money from the inmates. So sometimes there's money in those line items that can be used as well. Leasing, Alliance has come out with a program now where the smaller agencies can get into this program without a big cash outlay. We'll actually come in and put the conversions on your vehicles, put in infrastructure with no money up front. And what we do is we build the cost of the conversion and the infrastructure into your gas payment, your fuel payment over a 3 to 4 year period. So it kind of helps you out, and usually it means you're paying somewhere between 20 to 50 cents more per gallon for your fuel. Success. This is what everybody wants to see, is that face. Yes, we won. Okay? The program's going to be judged on its initial success, and I didn't realize that until we got to doing this. One of the things that we failed to do was get buy-in from the guys who were actually going to drive these cars. I know that sounds, how could you not do that, Mike? Well, I just assumed everybody was like me. They were just going to do it because we give you the car to drive, you're going to drive it. But what we found out was, remember I said they have a button that they can push and cut the system on and off? Well, what we found out was happening was what? They were cutting it off and never cutting it back on. So they were operating on gas the whole time, which meant we weren't saving money, which was the whole issue of why we were doing this. So we had to go back afterwards and really do a re-education on everything. And I would suggest that if you're interested in this and your department may be looking at this, get buy-in from not only those guys, but your fleet maintenance people, the people that are going to deal with these cars. Get them and get their input and let them understand why you're doing this. There's 7 basic components that I think are very important for a conversion program. You want somebody who's going to come in and tell you exactly what these systems will do. It's not a one-size-fits-all program, okay? And I want to make that very clear. AutoGas is a great alternative energy for certain things, okay? It is not a one-size-fits-all. You need someone who will come in and tell you if this program is what your agency needs, because it may not be. You need conversion equipment that is EPA certified and that is proven to work. Much like the technology that the chief was talking about, law enforcement technology is advanced, over the years. This is advanced as well. We now have a system. It used to be that whenever you did a conversion, you had to cut wires and splice them back together. It took about anywhere from 8 to 12 hours to do a conversion on one vehicle. Now it's all plug and play. You don't cut wires, you don't drill holes, you just plug it and play it and the car runs. But that's just an advancement in the technology, okay? And we're going to see even more advancement in probably the near future. You want installation and conversion. You want the people who do that to be trained and certified. Training, you want the people who are going to be operating these vehicles trained to know how to operate them, how to put fuel in them. You need to have support in parts, warranty, and diagnostics. You need a low-cost or no-cost fuel infrastructure because you're going to have to get fuel from somewhere, okay? And you want a fuel monitoring system to let you know how much fuel you're actually using, okay? Alliance AutoGas is the only company in the country that can provide every one of those. We can do everything from consultation to bringing the fuel to your destination, your infrastructure, and we can monitor it on when you need fuel. Alliance AutoGas will put your infrastructure in for free. Won't cost you anything. We will actually set you a fueling station on your site. so that you can fuel just like you do right now. There's no difference. Propane pros, obviously environmental benefits. AutoGas is domestically produced. It reduces emissions, and it's cheaper than gasoline. Okay? And I'll tell you this right now, you're going to have fuel cost reduction if you do this. I can tell you, and I'm not trying to build it up more than what it is, but I can tell you right now that if you do convert a vehicle and you pump propane into that car, AutoGas, you're going to save money. If you put a conversion system on that car and you don't pump AutoGas, you're going to lose money because you had to pay for the conversion. But if you pump the propane, you will save money, okay? Because you're going to get it cheaper at the pump. Remember, it's $1 cheaper. Plus, you're going to get a federal tax incentive of 50. I think this year it's actually 38 cents a gallon. You're going to get that check in the mail at the end of the year, okay? They're getting ready to vote on that. We think it's going to go back to another 5-year term, and it's going to be 50 cents each year. So that should go back up. You're actually going to see some improvement in your vehicle performance because of the higher octane. We think your employees will appreciate it because you're doing some things that are good for the environment. And if they have the same commitment to your agency that you do, then they understand about the savings and what that can mean to your agency and how you can use those savings for something else within your department. It's a great public perception, public relations tool. It can generate a lot of media about your agency, and it creates American jobs because it is domestically produced. Considerations: don't have unrealistic expectations. Don't think, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to have just millions of dollars falling out of the sky, because you're not. You're going to save some money, okay, and it's going to be operational. The availability for applications in a fleet are limited. Not every vehicle out there can be converted, and that's why it's important to work with your supplier on what type of vehicles you operate and make sure that you're getting EPA certified conversions. Some employees have trepidation and concerns about operating a converted vehicle. Make sure your vendor participation is high, that they're going to stand behind their product and that they're going to stand behind you, that you will have good vendor support. Technician training needs and costs. Alliance will actually come in and train your staff, your vehicle services staff, for free on how to install, service, and diagnose these systems. Issues arising due to the nation's transition of energy types. A lot of different alternative energies out there. And again, you need to choose the one that's going to best suit the needs of your agency. In 2014, Alliance AutoGas did more than 7,400 conversions, saving $45 million in fuel costs. You can typically figure you're going to save about 35% on your fuel cost if you do a conversion. Any questions? The difference really between Roush and Alliance is Roush is dedicated, which means it's going to run on propane and propane only. Alliance's systems, they're biofuel. You can still run gas. You can run as much gas as you want, and the driver actually has a little button inside the vehicle that he can punch that button, and he can switch back and forth seamlessly between the two. I'm going to tell you, the technology is there now. Back in the 70s, you hear people talk about, yeah, there's this old boy down there, he had a propane car back in the 70s, and that thing never run right. Well, it didn't. It didn't. But see, it was a carbureted engine. And that's really where the problem with it was. The technology they had the idea, they just didn't have the technology. But now with fuel-injected systems, the platform is there now. It's seamless. I have the car that I drove here from North Carolina here today. It's got propane on it. If you want to drive it, you're more than welcome to drive it. It's a Ford Explorer. So you're more than welcome to drive it and see just how easy it is to operate. And you'll see the actual plug-and-play system on that car. And I would encourage you, the guys at Sharp, they have these vehicles. I would encourage you to contact them and have them bring you one of these cars and let you test drive it, let people in your agency test drive it. And I don't mean just for 10 minutes. I mean, give it a workout. You know, work this thing out so you can see just exactly what the technology will do now. And sit down with these guys and find out exactly what type of savings you can realize if your agency, and you don't have to go out and do 100 vehicles. That's not what I'm saying. You can start with 10. You can start with 5. And just track and monitor those vehicles' usages and see, am I realizing what this hick guy from North Carolina actually told us would happen? Yeah, and I think you'd be surprised at what would happen with those 5 vehicles, or 10. Any other questions? I sure appreciate you guys giving me your attention and for even letting me come up here and talk to you. Thank you.